And so, my brothers and sisters, it is high time we come to face our problems. It is high time we come to tell ourselves that, agriculture have to be revamped. It is high time we come to tell ourselves that fraud doesn't pay. Fraud distorts the orientation of the mind. And for whatsoever reason fraud is being committed, it has to be condemned. For whatsoever reason, the whole idea of the hookup phenomenon is being promoted. Almost every girl is being feared and being suspected for being a hookup. And it's a problem. And if you are able to take someone like Gege and you take someone like Saida Borj and you look at the ways ordinarily they come to look at things, and you look at someone like Blessing CEO and the things they try to purport, and the philosophies, if I should call them that, or rather the idiosyncrasies they try to purport and tell the people generally, you come to understand that it doesn't sell. It doesn't sell further than the place ordinarily it is. It doesn't sell. Why doesn't it sell? Because why should it sell? Why should such philosophies ordinarily sell? Why should such ways of thinking ordinarily be promoted? Either ways, why should we such ideas that tend to degrade the people, that tend to degrade the human soul, that tend to corrupt the human personality? Why should we listen to ideas that one way or the other don't meet reality? Ideas that are so stupid to even start with. Tell me how you sleep knowing that you're a fraudster. Tell me how you go to bed knowing fully well that you're a hookup phenomenon, that you're a hookup babe and you're a hookup guy. Tell me how on earth you sleep comfortably well knowing that you ordinarily have been robbed of the idea of true love, and you've been robbed of the idea of living a genuine, peaceful, a calm, introspective, blissful life. Because the money you are getting from fraud and the ways of degradation and the ways of corruption you ordinarily have gone through to ordinarily attain that particular place is not something you should be doing. It's not a way ordinarily you should be living life. You can live life better. You can progress better. You can grow better if you ordinarily want to grow better. But no, you've been robbed of that particular reality. And so you have to get the money one way or the other. And one of the ways you go by is fraud. And fraud destroys your soul. Fraud destroys your sense of sensibility. It takes away your level of emotional connection. It takes away your level of empathy. It takes away sympathy from you. What about the girl that goes about doing hookup and goes about sleeping around and prostituting as almost in and about the only choice she has? What about the prospect of ordinarily coming to fall in love? What about the prospect of intimacy that ordinarily she has been robbed of? We don't see this. We don't look at this. We don't want to talk about this. We don't want to be reminded of the shame that comes from ordinarily living the way we ordinarily come to live. We don't want to face our fears. We don't want to face our shames. We don't want to face our problems. We don't want to come to understand that for the very fact that we don't have libraries functioning and we don't have books being published in the country and we don't have means of ordinarily coming to get the things we ordinarily must get to have stable life, for the fact that we don't have basic amenities, that we are almost being thrown back to the Hobbesian state of nature. And so the number of crime continues to increase. The number of insincere people continue to increase. The number of selfishness continues to increase. Why would that increase? Because people ordinarily are prone to want to survive one way or the other. And in the face of scarcity, what do you find? You find people ordinarily wanting to survive. And what has scarcity done in Nigeria? Scarcity has brought about the idea of what, you can put it simply, the idea of corruption. I don't want to go through the long chain that ordinarily would still arrive at corruption, because when the professor doesn't ordinarily get paid well, he faces the student and then tries to exploit them one way or the other, sell materials to them, sell books, force them to do one or two stuff, get them to contribute to class reps and, him coming to fund his lifestyle because he has children, right? And a whole lot of other things ordinarily that come down there. What about the politician? In the face of scarcity and the face of perceived scarcity, such a person comes to look at his life from the standpoint of him securing the future of himself and the future of the children. And what happens? Problem down here is the problem that such a person cannot get enough. And in not getting enough and trying to save enough for himself and his family, comes to ordinarily fail to ordinarily cater for other families. And the problems are many. And people tend to tell me, Japa. Japa is not the solution to the problems of the country. Japa is just a reaction to the ways in which things at the moment are. Japa is people just trying to react to how life at the moment within Nigeria has come to be almost unbearable. And the embassies know. To a large extent, they know. They know they need manpower. They know they need people to work in their countries. They know they need people to ordinarily come do their, you can say, menial jobs and stuff like that, occupy their manpower and all that. But for how long? We know we're talking about cosmopolitanism and the idea of borders being almost invincible and being almost not noticeable and stuff like that. But the thing is, regardless, one is Nigerian and can only be Nigerian for the longest. Other attachments can come, but affinity towards home would almost always be there. And so one begins to live this double standard life. And so you find people now studying in Nigeria with the prospects of migrating to other countries, not necessarily because they want to migrate. Many persons want to stay back in Nigeria, but they can't. Many scholars would love to research within Nigeria, but they can't. Many persons would ordinarily want to live life and get married within Nigeria, but they can't. They have to find their way out of the country. And so you get to see that whether you have the money to migrate out of the country or not, it doesn't ordinarily make migration a solution to the problems of the country. And the more people get to migrate, the more they get to bring in foreign proceeds, and the more exchange rate is happening, and the more businesses ordinarily get to receive money. And one way or the other way, with my loose sense of economics, you come to understand the presence of foreign money within a particular country more than the country's currency, and the dangers such foreign currency come to do within the exchange rate that makes up for the sales of such amount of money in the international exchange market. And even when you get to migrate to different clans and different lands, what do you go there to do? Do you go to become the same things you ordinarily want to do? Do you go there to become the psychologist you always wanted to be, the doctor you always want to be, the nurse you always want to be, or the lawyer you've always wanted to be? Or you just go there to, try to patch your life and fit in as you ordinarily can fit in? Or you just tell yourself, I'll try my best here and there to see how I can make the best out of what I can get, and then try to see that my family gets to survive. In the long run, what are we saying? And what have we been saying? That the problem and the trouble with the country is a thing that we must look at squarely, and we must look at together as a communal entity, not as an individual, not as individuals. We must come together and tell ourselves that we must vote, and our vote must count, else we protest. We must also come to get rid of our levels of ignorance, because I tell you for free, the levels of ignorance are the levels upon which we come to exhibit our ignorance. Also on the internet speaks the devil to a large extent. And we must come to tell ourselves that, what, we as a people can grow together, can stand tall, can't do all the good things we must do if given the opportunities, and the opportunities will not be given by the oppressors. We must grab it from them, we must demand it from them, we must ask of these things from them, else we don't get it. And the simple analogy I would just give you is the fact that when our brothers and sisters go out to climbs that ordinarily support talents, climbs that ordinarily support the well-being of citizens and the well-beings of migrants and the well-beings of those who are legally in such an environment, even for those who are not legally there. When our brothers and sisters find themselves within such climbs, they succeed. So that you get to see Achebe's analogy from the very beginning of where we started from, that there's nothing wrong with the Nigerian climate, there's nothing wrong with the Nigerian people, there's nothing wrong with the Nigerians themselves. Nothing wrong with Nigerians, so to say, and by extension, Africa, and by extension, global citizens. The only thing that is the problem, it is the right environment, the engineering that ordinarily has to go in making the place work, in making the country function well, in making the society grow. These are the things we ordinarily need to fix. These are the things we must look at. These are the things we must consider when looking at our problems. Because outside of this, if we don't look at this squarely, if we don't look at these concerns, if we don't examine the fact that we have been deceived, and the world being a global village, we just stand by, watch us drown and kill ourselves, we also will just die. What you are going to look for in America can be replicated in Nigeria. Even better, can even be gotten from your own backyard. Remember the whole idea of what you define for Sokoto, a day for Sokoto. It is the same thing that can play out here. Take, for instance, buildings such as, establishments such as the Tinapa. It's a thing that almost looks alien to our people. The drainages, the systems, the way ordinarily it was constructed, the roads, the interconnectedness of the whole stuff, is a thing that can be replicated back home. And not just back home now, I mean, it can be replicated in different places. The cobblestones you get to see in Europe and how things ordinarily have been laid can be done back home. We have the raw materials. Everything mustn't be about cement. Everything mustn't be about plastic. Everything mustn't be about tiles. And we have a whole lot of indigenous people to look at to tell us how to ordinarily build. One of them is a great man, Demas Nwoko, and his different sculptures down there. Or you want to go to Burkina Faso, and you have our brother down there, Francis, doing marvelously well. The different things we ordinarily can learn from ourselves, within ourselves, and see to it that we function well. When your brother travels abroad, it is not a different person that is functioning abroad. He just come to have access to things. And mind you, most persons travel abroad with little or nothing. They borrow money, they travel, they work their way out because the system works, and then they pay their debt. And even those who travel with their last card still come to survive after 2, 3, 4 years. Have you tried to think about it the other way around? That somebody suffering in another country runs to your country to seek solace and seek means of ordinarily coming to make money? Have you come to look at how things ordinarily will turn out and play out? Definitely it's not the same answer you're getting, right? From the policies that will be set in place, the tax, the different levels of tariffs that will be placed against him, all this will be as embargo to ordinarily see that such person's venture crumbles. And so in summary, from our elections to the social realities of our country, we ordinarily have to come to terms to start naming our problems. What are our problems? Bad roads, bad hospitals. In fact, no hospitals. Our prisons are nothing to write home about. I still call them prisons, not correctional centers, because those stuffs are not down there to correct people. They are there to punish. and they shouldn't be in existence ever, because they break all logic and they crumble all sensibility of what fundamental human rights ordinarily should be, even when the basic rights are taken. The right to life is being undermined by many correctional centers, so to call them, back home. What about agriculture? Our youths have to be responsible enough to know that they have to farm. And it is not just in and about calling the government. The government doesn't print money. The government is there to ordinarily see to the survival of the people and the needs of the people are met, making the economy and the situation and the police favorable for ordinarily coming to function as a country, coming to function as a people. But that cannot happen in isolation. The people have to be responsible enough to know their own part of the bargain, to know what they ordinarily are supposed to do. And up until now, we've not really come to know what we are supposed to do as a people. And even if we've come to know, we have come to refuse the truth of the matter, that we also have greatly been irresponsible, that we also have to start telling ourselves the truth. And what is the truth? The truth here is the fact that we must grow together, we must stand tall together, we must do things together if we must succeed together. Else we labor in vain, else we kill ourselves unnecessarily, else we just die in vain. And it doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit you, it doesn't benefit me, it doesn't benefit anybody. Believe me, it benefits us when we are working together. Whether we are going by trivias, reciprocal altruism, or we are going by our sensibility of our commonality and the shared idea of our humanity as being the oldest culture that's being human, we must come to tell ourselves that we ordinarily ought to survive and survive together. Else, just like Mandela will always say, single fingers can easily be bent, but together we stand tall, together we stand strong. And this is gotten from the fact that our people come to tell us that single brooms can easily be broken when taken out individually in sticks, but a bundle, when bent, would resist breaking, would resist yielding to that particular stuff. We must stand together. You and I, you my brother, you my sister, myself as your brother, and all those in between this group, who ordinarily see to it that Nigeria must work and Nigeria must function together. And not just function for ourselves alone, function in relation to our African brothers and sisters in coming to fulfill our duty and our mission within the African continent. Else we betray ourselves irretrievably. And after doing that, we extend our generosity and our mission to the world. Because we have a mission to play in the world. We have already been playing that mission, but we've not done it so well. Many persons can tell you talk is cheap. I don't believe that. I believe that ideas change the world. We mustn't get tired of talking. We must be able to point out our problems and point it out clearly, so that we don't be like Prometheus in the tragedy recorded in the Iliad by Homer, upon which Odysseus told the one-eyed Cyclops that his name is Norman. And when the situation came upon which Prometheus ordinarily was supposed to, the Cyclops ordinarily was supposed to come to call out the name of Odysseus to seek for help, he was shouting, "Nobody is killing me, nobody is killing me." And what happens with that? Since nobody is killing you, why should people come to your rescue when nobody actually is killing you? So the first step of we solving our problem is to be able to point out our problems, is to be able to name our problem, is to be able to pinpoint it and say, this here, right here is our problem and we need to solve it. Whether we keep shouting on the social media, or we keep telling that on the faces of our political class, or we keep writing them in books, or we keep singing such in our music, our levels of activism mustn't stop. We must continue to do what we ordinarily must do. Today, tomorrow, into the future. I am Biringbo bin Emeka, the mendicant, I'm your brother, strolling this world with you. See you next time.